Welcome once again, everybody, to Eater's Digest. With me, as always, is Willow North. Willow, I've got an interesting value proposition for you. It's come to my attention that somebody is doing a study of bluefin tuna. Tell me if you would do this. It's $200 per person, although it is 10 courses, and they're going to break down an entire bluefin tuna in front of you and serve it to you in presumably 10 different ways. Good value proposition or not? What do you say?
For me personally, it would not be my thing, as I don't eat seafood. However, it does sound like the kind of thing that my partner would be really into. I think it's a neat experience to be able to kind of like watch that all happen in front of you. I think that could be off-putting to some people. Not that I think that they would purchase it if they found the concept off-putting, but like, how much of it are they really doing in front of you? Are you getting like
I presume all of it.
splashed with bits? Are you getting gunk on you?
I hope so. I want it to be like a Blue Man Group show where I've got a big tarp over me.
I love that. I think that, an interactive dining experience is always interesting. I think things like that are honestly coming back into fashion in a much smaller scale, like tableside Caesar and guacamole and things like that, because people love to be able to take videos for social media. So I could see this being a great value proposition for somebody that wants to like vlog their experience too. For the average person, probably not. But if you really love tuna, I mean, probably sounds like a good time.
It seems like a rare opportunity to do something. And then I spin myself into this spiral where I'm like, well, $200, that's really expensive, but I could write it off as a business expense if I like record the whole thing and make it into a short. But then I'm like, am I even having fun? Am I even enjoying the meal as it was meant to be enjoyed if I'm just like there with my camera or my phone recording the entire thing? And I guess this is why I just don't leave the house, because I get paralyzed by thought. One of these days, I'll remember that you don't eat fish nor meat. You'd think that after almost a year of this, I would keep that in mind. And yet, here we are.
We'll get it someday.
Until then, what's in the news?
SNAP benefits are in jeopardy across the country, with federal budget cuts threatening the program and bills restricting SNAP purchases being introduced in several states, aiming to encourage healthier eating by banning soda, candy, and other junk food from being bought with benefits. Idaho is the first state to successfully pass such a bill through both chambers of their Congress, and pending approval of their governor and the USDA, the bill could potentially go into effect July 1st.
Idaho says don't buy French fries with SNAP. Interesting choice. The headline of this is that, what is it? SNAP recipients brace for potential changes. I feel like, or at least I imagine, everyone's a little tired of bracing for change right now. That's at least how I feel.
Definitely.
Well, I guess there's never a good time to be poor, but I do feel like we may be heading into a remarkably bad time. And if you're playing the Eater's Digest drinking game at home, take a shot, because it's time to reference the K-shaped recovery again. I feel like things are just getting more and more separated in terms of income and wealth, and it's not a good time to be on the lower end of that spectrum. I do feel like there is a sentiment that poor people are failed, or at least temporarily embarrass people, and they thus need to eat their vegetables. I like earnestly feel like vegetables are the only true acceptable option for some folks regarding like what SNAP recipients should eat. I remember there was like a semi-viral social media post several years ago about somebody who was shopping at Walmart and they noticed that lobster tails were on sale. And so they bought some of that with SNAP. And then like a bunch of people were like looking at her funny and talking to her about like, oh, I wish I could, get free lobster on SNAP. And so I don't know. I think about like, I really buy heavily discounted foods all the time. And I think about like when I went to American Discount Grocer, which is like an expired food store over here in the East Valley. And it's like, I remember going there and buying a case of Soylent because it was like 25 cents per bottle. And I still have like the big bucket of Malden salt that was like $4. I don't know why. It's not like salt expires realistically, but it's just like there's certain incongruities with like buying luxury products at a steep discount that makes sense if you're the type of person who understands pricing and how those things work. But to an outsider, I guess maybe not.
I think people are just uncomfortable seeing other people engage in behaviors that they feel like they wouldn't do or would feel embarrassed to do. I think people have this idea that people who are receiving SNAP benefits should just be eating only vegetables and brown rice and ground chicken. And, I think that we need to remember that like the majority of people that are on Snap are normal working people that are struggling to make ends meet and not people that are going to Walmart and buying 10 boxes of fudge rounds and feeding their kids that all week. People really like to think that the people that are receiving SNAP benefits are lazy and just want to sit home and eat junk food. But the reality is that the people who are finding ways to take advantage of that system are greatly outnumbered by the people that actually use it. And I have been a recipient of SNAP benefits 2 separate times in my life, and I'm not embarrassed to admit that. I think that there's a lot of shame and stigma involved in being somebody that needs that assistance. And I think that putting these restrictions on it, while I understand the health perspective, you are just making these people feel even more put on a spotlight. And I think that people need a sense of normalcy. People need to be able to buy some potato chips so their kids can have a normal snack when their friends are over. Like, it's not necessary, it's luxuries, but I think people deserve to feel normal.
I got hung up by you saying fudge rounds because now I wonder, did you just happen to cite that, or are you specifically referencing that Richmond north of Richmond? Okay, good. I was like,
Yep, that
wow,
popped into my head immediately.
those are the only two times I've ever heard anybody reference the term fudge rounds, but I guess I just stay out of that aisle too much. If I am to earnestly steelman the argument of the people who support this sort of thing, I would choose to say, well, it's good that we don't let our most vulnerable fall prey to the most addicting foods in the world, right? It's not good that that we've got them hooked on Coca-Cola and sugar and caffeine and packaged products. But I just don't personally think that that is a viable strategy to set up with food access the way that it is. Like, food deserts where you don't have a whole lot of access to vegetables or fresh foods. What do you do when you only have like a corner store to choose from and like a Jack in the Box? And what do you do when the fresh produce that you're able to buy, like at a place like American Discount Foods, which is already like 3 days past its sell by date, and you can't really just go to the store every single day and restock up on stuff like that because it just doesn't stay good in your fridge for as long. So, even in my most charitable interpretation of this perspective, it just seems a little narrow-sighted in that it doesn't take into account the holistic system that we've got in place.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, I agree that it's a good sentiment. But at the end of the day, a lot of people don't realize that in more rural areas of this country, the closest grocery store to you might be a Dollar General that's 40 minutes away that you can't really get fresh produce at. I understand what you mean about not letting like vulnerable people fall victim to these addicting food products, but those addicting food products are also the cheapest and most accessible things. And I don't think that's an accident.
I really wish that I didn't talk about a $200 tasting menu for tuna right before the story. So can we move on, please? Thank you.
Casual dining chains, once a staple of American family life, are in decline, with many filing for bankruptcy or closing locations, such as TGI Fridays, Red Lobster, and Olive Garden. This decline is due to a combination of factors, including a shrinking middle class, convenience-driven consumer habits, and the rise of fast casual establishments. While some argue that these restaurants lack authenticity, research shows that they may still offer valuable social spaces where people from different income brackets can connect.
So there are two articles cited here, and it's just like, I have a hard time understanding why they've glommed onto certain facets of this, like lacking authenticity, as if Chipotle is authentically Mexican. I do see this trend as entirely cyclical. Like, it's not structural or foundational. I don't think these restaurants will be gone forever. I think they will come back and they will become very popular once again. Like, the news outlets are barely writing about this trend now, while I see the youth online posting messages to social media like, we love Chili's. We can't believe that you can get an enormous meal for the same price as a fast food combo. Plus, they've got Dollaritas if I want to drink, and they have, $2 Long Island iced teas. I see clear answers to both headlines in the stories that you reported on here. What will we eat if the middle class restaurant is gone? Fast casual food bowl, obviously, it seems to me. And the other one is, want to make friends from a different economic class? Try your local Applebee's. I just don't really jive with that either. It's like, just go to your local dive bar, karaoke night, pub quiz, city center. I think I love to reference the fact that like the only reason Barkley exists is that I went to like the city of Scottsdale's recreation center and started learning pottery with like a bunch of old ladies who are there because classes are cheap and it's put on by the city. We are big library visitors in every city that we've ever been in. I think I see these people that are like for example, they'll complain about how their phone is killing them, but they like keep scrolling on social media all the time. And like it's the same vibe when I hear people talk about like the loss of the third place or the lack of third places in America. But there are people who don't go to the library. Like there's good stuff going on at the library, and you can get magazines and DVDs and audiobooks and games sometimes. And if you haven't been to your local library, try it out. I think you'll miss your local Applebee's a lot less.
I think you have a good point there, but I do feel like in response to the third place thing, I do hear people constantly throwing out the just go to your local library thing. And I think it's really not that simple. First of all, libraries are dying. I hate to say that, but it's a really sad fact. And, you know, these libraries are also actively losing a lot of funding right now. And my local library just put out a statement online saying that they are having to reduce a lot of the events and things that they host there, which are mostly geared towards children. I also don't see a lot of adult events happening at libraries. Maybe that's just the places that I have lived. And a lot of other options, like you said, about like a dive bar, a lot of these other third spaces often centralize alcohol, and that is prohibitive to anyone under the age of 21 or who might not drink or might not feel comfortable in that environment. And then, you pivot that to something like a library. But a library is a quiet public space. You can't gather with a group of friends and have a lively conversation there. It's also a place that does not foster a ton of interaction with a lot of the other people there. People are coming there to check out books, to read quietly by themselves. And I do think that we are in a place where we do desperately need places where people can come together and interact in a way that is not being stifled by the environment that they're in.
I guess I feel stifled when the environment I'm in costs $20 for a meal. But, this is one of those cases where I can't tell if I'm just a freak or if I got lucky or if this is a result of my specific lifestyle. But it's like, I hate driving, for example. I hate driving out 15 minutes to go somewhere fun. So I seek whatever's closest to me. And so like there is a bar around the corner where they have a free poker night. You don't even have to drink. You can just show up for free. So I've met a ton of people, if I can quote the second headline, want to make friends from a different economic class. I've met people from extremely different lifestyles. Like, if I told you the type of people I was hanging out with, it would sound like a freak show. Because whenever I come back to tell Bree like who I hung out with, it's like, oh, an evil hippie who's like a white guy with dreads and he was spinning a marble the whole time like a fushigi ball. Like the types of people that I meet are really strange, and I make friends with them, and I come to learn everything about them, and we get along just fine. And I guess I just put so much value on the smallest possible or like most hyper local community that I can, that I don't run into that problem of feeling like I have nowhere to go. And if I did, restaurant would be really far on the list, really far down on the list.
Yeah, and let me say, with everything that I just said about third spaces, let me kind of circle back to the article itself. I certainly don't think that Applebee's and Olive Garden are the answer to this question. I read this article and it felt kind of ridiculous to me while I was reading it. I feel like the overall tone of the article is really like romanticizing this like nostalgia for these restaurants that a lot of people have. And it felt really overdone to me. I don't think that people are breaking down class barriers at Chili's over a triple dipper. I think that there are, like you said, much better ways of connecting with your community. And I thought that this article was kind of bogus and weird. It feels really wholesome, but it felt like they really gave us nothing in the article. There was just like, these restaurants are going away. Oh no, what's going to happen? And the answer is, we'll figure it out. I don't think anyone really cares that much that Applebee's, Chili's, whatever, or Chili's is a bad example. Chili's is actually doing much better than any of these other places. I don't think losing these businesses is a loss to our communities.
especially because I see one of the articles referencing your local Applebee's. Like, okay, let's not forget that this is a chain and you can go to like your local fast casual restaurant and do everything that you were going to do at Applebee's there and support like an actual local small business.
Exactly. And, interacting with your community in that way, even just by patronizing local businesses, is ultimately probably going to end up a more meaningful experience than going to the bar at IHOP for not IHOP, Applebee's for those dollaritas. No dollaritas at IHOP. That would be a nightmare.
Keep listening. We'll be right back. Promotional consideration for Eater's Digest is furnished by Porter Road. Porter Road takes pasture-raised beef, pork, and chicken, butchers it by hand, then delivers it straight to your door. It's all free of antibiotics, hormones, and GMOs, and their beef is dry-aged. I know what most people are probably thinking. How much better can meat really be? If I had to pick just a couple cheaper yet illustrative cuts, it would have to be their hot dogs and their whole spatchcocked chicken. A dry-aged, high-quality hot dog is going to change the way you look at wieners, guaranteed, and Porter Road's pasture-raised, spatchcocked chicken is the only chicken I've cooked where, after it's out of the oven, I can visibly see the juices flowing around underneath the skin. Humanely raised meat tastes better, and I feel better eating it. Use code SHAQ15 at checkout for 15% off your first order. That's SHAQ15 at checkout.
Mr. Beast's company, Beast Industries, generated $250 million in sales from Feastables chocolate bars last year, outperforming both his YouTube channel and his Amazon reality show. With Feastables now the top moneymaker for his company and predicted to triple in size in the next few years, Mr. Beast is said to be pursuing even more ventures in CPG, with new cereals, drinks, and other snacks already in the works.
You say Feastables is the top moneymaker. It seems like it's the only moneymaker. They break down his finances in this article, and it's just like the Amazon show lost $20 million, the YouTube show lost $20 million, and like the chocolate bar is up a couple $1 million. So that's good. So I guess what is difficult to traverse on this is that I am on record several years ago as being very pro Beast. I feel like, if anybody's going to be the number one YouTuber, it's better for it to be like some random kid from middle America instead of like, I don't know, Jay Shetty or like some weird like manufactured person who is like perfectly fitted for being a media god. I imagine that you don't feel the same way.
Yeah, I really just don't get it. I tried to watch a little bit of Mr. Beast content while I was researching this because I am pretty unfamiliar with him aside from what I see on social media or hear in the news about him. And I find him entirely uncharismatic and not interesting, and I don't understand how he has skyrocketed to the success that he has. But whether or not I like him is not the point. I do think it's fascinating that he has managed to be so successful despite being like you said, a very normal, unassuming person from middle
Not
America.
even that, a charisma vacuum. The way that he smiles with just his bottom half of his face and never with the top is something to be studied.
I find him frightening. I find him really unsettling. He gives me the creeps. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I think that's his name. But at the same time, I'm also, like I find his content underwhelming yet so successful, this product is also so underwhelming but so successful. I bought 2 Feastables chocolate bars yesterday to try them out in preparation just so I could accurately talk trash in this video. And they were horrible. It was the worst chocolate I've ever had. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not saying that because I don't like him. It was terrible.
We got to get you an Eater's Digest company card so you can charge things like that onto it. To someone like myself, the chocolate does taste bad. I think it just doesn't taste good. It's like really small. I remember getting one for a heavily discounted price and reacting in the same way. It's just not good. And I think to any adult with kids, Lunchly, his other like prepackaged lunch product, is also an unattractive product. They present it like, oh, look at how low calorie it is. It's healthier, but it's like dollars per calorie is something that you want. You want the calories to be high for your dollar when you're feeding kids because they're monsters who burn through energy like crazy. Similarly, I noticed that the D's Nuts flavor of Feastables is gone, presumably because most parents don't feel comfortable buying something with a name like that for their kids.
It was actually, he was, I believe, sued by another company called D's Nuts, like a woman's name D, and it was a nut company. I had the same assumption as you. I was like, geez, his audience is mostly children. Are we really calling this product D's Nuts? So I think, in the end, everything worked out the way that it should have. I don't think it really needed to be named that in the first place. But it was because of an existing company.
I love when your research hours pay off. All of that to say that, quality is not an indicator of success. It doesn't matter that his Amazon show was terrible if people watch it. It doesn't matter if Hostess Ho Ho flavored shelf stable iced coffee at $1.99 a pint is terrible if people buy it. I think culture at large is entering its slop era, and I suggest that everyone just prepares accordingly. I remember making this suggestion when like AI art was very first coming out as like something to talk about, and it's just like, we can complain, we can resist, but I think what is most appropriate is to kind of just prepare. And I think when it comes to, the big YouTuber guy making toys at Target and chocolate and lunch products and Amazon TV shows and now like certain sci-fi books, it's you just got to prepare for the slop era of culture, however everybody sees fit personally.
I feel like I want that as Eater's Digest merchandise. Like, I want a trucker hat that says "In my slop era."
Perfect. I'll get on that soon.
All right. Well, speaking of things that are possibly successful despite being terrible, I have a few interesting products for you this week.
Please bring on the slop.
All right. First up, we have Cheez-It frozen pizza in 4 cheese, pepperoni, and cheddar jack supreme. Guy Fieri and Waterloo sparkling water collab in lemon Italian ice, huckleberry cobbler, and spiced mango sorbet. And Cliff Bar caffeinated collection in vanilla almond and caramel chocolate chip.
I don't imagine that the Cheez-It frozen pizzas are like nicely laminated cheddar cheese flavored dough that puffs up as you bake it. I think if they went in that direction, it could be somewhat interesting in that you'd get that like flakiness. But I'm guessing it's just a compressed Cheez-It cracker crust with a bunch of toppings on it. The Waterloo sparkling water collab, there's something really interesting about the flavor ideas. They're evocative and they sound delicious, but it's like sparkling water just can't achieve what, for example, beer does, because with beer you can get milk involved and put lactose in and make a sour. There's more ingredients so that you can say, oh, this is lemon Italian ice flavored. It's not just lemon flavor. Like they would put some creamy element to evoke that texture. The same with the huckleberry cobbler. Like they could brew it with graham cracker crumbs to give it that graham cracker flavor. And I don't imagine that that's going to come through in the seltzer format of a beverage.
I think it could. I have had a flavor from Polar that was like a vanilla orange seltzer, like totally unsweetened. And the vanilla flavor actually came through pretty well, and I thought it tasted really good. I think that these flavors could work with something like that. I think you do have a point that seltzer water is a much harder format to work with to create interesting flavors than something like beer. But I do think that these are kind of fun, neat little flavors. I did think it was a strange venture for Guy Fieri specifically. He's not somebody that I would associate with sparkling water. Immediately I would think like beer, barbecue sauce, things like that. But they're definitely interesting flavors. I would try them.
What does the can look like? Because if it's covered in flames, that would be cool. If it's got his face on it going, yeah, I'm not going to.
It's really bright and like cartoonish looking. I kind of wish that they had leaned more into like the Flames race car vibes.
Yeah, missed opportunity. I will say I did just pick up a 12-pack of the Kroger brand lemon lime seltzer for like $1.99. Ooh, that's exactly what I was looking for as a soda replacement. It tastes exactly like an unsweetened Sprite. It's not just lemon. It's not just lime. It is Sprite flavored seltzer. And so, Dr. Death, take notes. The Cliff Bar caffeinated collection, I think it makes sense. It's like I always imagine Cliff Bars as for rock climbers and outdoor enthusiasts. And I understand that that's just part of the branding. I don't know if that's actually like what a big portion of their buyers are. But in the same way that I can imagine somebody getting really tired while they're rock climbing and wanting a little caffeine with their snack, I can also imagine the types of people who just grab a Cliff Bar for breakfast being like, well, I don't have time for coffee, so let's get some caffeine in as well as these sweetened oats.
I think that this is like an interesting concept. I do think that like putting caffeine in an edible thing for a situation like that makes sense. I don't know if you've ever heard of Verb bars. They were like really, really viral on Instagram maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. I still get ads for them occasionally. They were kind of like the OG caffeinated bar. And I tried them when they first came out and they were so disgusting. I don't know if it was like caffeine powder or like a powdered green coffee situation, situation that things use. But it was so bitter and terrible. And I can only hope that Cliff Bar, being the company that they are, where they make these like energy bars that are kind of glorified cookies, that it might taste better. But with the Verb bars, I found the taste like really prohibitive.
Caffeinated Cliff Bar does seem a little bit like 2007 when everything was getting ultra caffeinated, like Balls energy soda. But it's I think it's too late for a company to take advantage of this trend. But if I could like snap my fingers and drum up a meeting with the Cliff Bar people and say, this is what you got to do, I would be saying put creatine. Like everybody who makes a functional solid food or bar or candy should be pivoting to creatine right now, because the creatine gummy market is just growing out of control and there's so little creatine in them that this is like your big opportunity for like a dense, chewy Cliff Bar that's like this big and super dense to actually have some creatine that's not perceptible and still tastes good. I think if they started on that, it might be like, 14 months before they get it out to market. And then by then the creatine craze might be over. But let this be the moment that I predicted the big creatine craze popping up. We'll see if it happens.
This year it's protein, next year it's creatine.
I think creatine is a type of protein, isn't it?
I have no idea. So,
Me
somebody
neither.
tell me in the comments below. I have no idea what
Oh,
creatine
yeah.
is.
Engagement farming. I love it.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next week.
See you all next week, guys.
Eater's Digest is published every Friday on YouTube, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. You can also get a text-based version delivered to your email every Friday at patreon.com/shack.